to the Who Dat Nation, and welcome to the Dome Patrol Podcast, your podcast for the New Orleans Saints here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and it's official, everybody. Despite the New Orleans Saints wiping the dome with the the Atlanta Falcons today by beating the Falcons 48-17, we have been eliminated from playoff contention due to the fact that, number one, Tampa Bay defeated the Carolina Panthers earlier today by the score of 9-0, giving Tampa the division for the third straight year. But there was still hope in the horizon. The Saints needed the Seattle Seahawks to lose and the Green Bay Packers to lose. Well, Seattle took on the Arizona Cardinals, and at the time of this recording, Arizona is winning with 2 minutes left in the game. But the one that mattered, the one that ended first, was the Green Bay Chicago Bears game, where Green Bay won, clinching the final playoff spot and eliminating the New Orleans Saints from playoff contention. It's bittersweet. It is bittersweet that the season has come to an end. It seems like if you go over the last 5-6 weeks of the season, I would say, about 5 or 6 weeks of the season, that the Saints started to get it together. You know, they started to play inspired football in areas, in points. Finally, today versus the Atlanta Falcons, they put it all together. This was the most dominating performance in Dennis Allen's tenure as head coach. Perfectly called game, perfectly executed game. This is the best performance of Derek Carr. Derek Carr looks surgical out there today. I mean, hands down, I can't even front on it. And you know, as much vitriol that I gave that man all throughout the season, I got to give credit where credit is due. Today, he looked phenomenal. They ran the ball efficiently. Kendrick Miller looks like the second coming of Alvin Kamara. Those two together, I think, are a force. They can become one of the best running back duels currently in the NFL. I mean, that is a 1-2 punch. Jamal Williams, yeah. You know, it is what it is. I think that is kind of a bust at this point, that off-season pickup. But it was a this was a task this season. This was a task, getting through it. If you can't tell by the sound of my voice, I am disappointed. I am very disappointed, because I'm a Saints fan. I am part of the Who Dat Nation, and no matter how I feel about our coach and how we've played throughout the year, I still love this team, and I cheer for this team every single Sunday. And yes, I did want them to go to the playoffs. A part of me did want them to go, but there is that other half of me that knew better. You know, that knew better, that this team, when you look at the totality of this season, didn't deserve to go to the playoffs. You know, they squandered so many opportunities throughout this season. I'm not going to go through it all today. We're going to do a season wrap up sometime next week, when we review the entire season. But it's just, you know, when you look back and you look at the Tampa Bay game, that first Tampa Bay game, you look at that Green Bay game, which ultimately cost us. And if you go back and listen to that show, when we recapped that game, I said that. And I'm not beating on my chest like I'm Notre Dame, like I predicted the future. I said that game was going to come back to haunt us. just like they came back to beat us when we had them down 17-0 in the fourth quarter. And ultimately, it came back. It reared its ugly head in week 18. And Green Bay winning today wouldn't even been a factor had we handled our business when we played them. What that was, week 3, week 4, somewhere up in there. So it's little things like that. It's the first Atlanta game that we lost, that comes back to haunt us, and so on and so forth. But like I said, we'll break all that down this upcoming week when we recap the entire season of the New Orleans Saints. But we can celebrate a little bit. We can cheer a little bit with this game. This was, like I said, a dominating game from the New Orleans Saints. The Saints honestly did their part. They actually came in and executed, knew what was at stake, and they played like that. They actually played inspired football today. 48-17 was the score. 48-17. I mean, that is butt kicking out of this world. And this is when in the first half it was deadly close. I mean, it looked like it was going to be a shootout in that first half. Desmond Ridder looked like he was out for blood today. But as the game went on, Desmond Ridder showed why he is Desmond Ridder. The Saints game against the Falcons turned on the first possession of the second half as cornerback Atlanta Taylor picked off Desmond Ridder. New Orleans quickly cashed in with a phenomenal touchdown pass and catch by Chris Olave in the end zone. I mean, that was just like, wow. That was an amazing touchdown catch by Chris Olave. And the Saints came right back on their next possession. Carr hit Rashid Shaheed, our Pro Bowler this year. Congratulations to Rashid Shaheed for making the Pro Bowl, the only Saint to make the Pro Bowl this season. He cashed in on a 39-yard touchdown pass, and it was out. It was over at that point. Blake Grupe added a 29-yard field goal after defensive end Peyton Turner. Yes, you heard me correctly. Peyton Turner recovered in a fumble by Atlanta, and Derek Carr hit A.T. Perry for a 6-yard touchdown pass, his second touchdown of the game. It was arguably Derek Carr's best game as a New Orleans Saint, and I'll take the arguably off. It was his best game as a New Orleans Saint. Last week was his best, and you look at his numbers, and it really wasn't that impressive. Today was very, very different. He was 22 of 28, 264 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He had a quarterback rating of 145.5. Playing without Alvin Kamara today, who was dealing with that ankle. It's sad to see that he didn't get to finish the season on his terms. But yeah, he missed today. But Kendrick Miller, as I said earlier, he picked up the mantle, man. It was next man up, and he was up. Kendrick Miller had 73 yards. He scored his first touchdown today. Taysom Hill, he had 6 carries for 51 yards. Jamal Williams had 26 yards on 14 carries. They dominated time of possession. They did exactly what I was hoping they would do, that I mentioned in the preview of this game. Controlling the line of scrimmage, running the ball, and stopping their run attack. And that was precisely what they did today. I guess they listened to the show. Doubt it. But safety Tyrann Mathieu almost had a pick six, and I mean almost. It was deadly close. And but he was tackled at the 1-yard line, which turned into it ended up being a 74-yard interception return with a minute left. And this is when it got crazy. At that point, it was 41-17. Game was over. It was a minute and 10 seconds or something like that left, and the Saints were lined up in victory formation, And all of a sudden, Jameis Winston turns around and hands the ball off to Jamal Williams, and he scores on a one yard touchdown. To give him a touchdown this season because he hasn't scored one all season. So that we're gonna circle back around to that in a few minutes, but that caused a big brouhaha if you haven't heard already. Well, we might as well address it now. The after the game was over, Atlanta's Atlanta's head coach Arthur Smith. You know how coaches come and they shake hands in the middle of the field after the game. Well, Arthur Smith, he threw his headset off and went to cursing Dennis Allen out from the minute he stepped off his sideline till they got to midfield. I mean, he was going in on Dennis Allen. And Dennis Allen, look, he apologized to him after the in the post game presser and all this here. Now this is where I take the time to poo-poo on Dennis Allen, despite the fact that he won today, despite the fact that this was his best performance as a head coach. You openly admitted, basically, in front of the world, that you have no control over the team. Now, this was his explanation. He apologized to Arthur Smith. He said that wasn't his decision. The players decided to give Jamal Williams a score. So they went against what he said. He wanted them to go out there and take a knee. They decided, we're going to give Jamal Williams the ball. You have no control over this team. And he openly admitted that. What head coach does that? Now, I've seen people ad-lib when Sean Payton was the head coach here. Sean Payton was livid. And that's when them scoring on that play they ad-libbed on. He don't like that. Most coaches don't like that. You run the play that I call. That's it. There is no ad-lib. Now, when you ad-lib to that degree, yeah, that's an issue. That's an issue. Now, did I find it funny? Yeah, it was funny. And the reason I felt it was funny because it's the Atlanta Falcons. It's the Atlanta Falcons. It was all fun just a few weeks ago when we went to Atlanta and they had a whole concert. You had Ludacris swinging from the Raptors like he was Tarzan rapping. You had T.I. bringing out the team. I mean, it was a whole thing. It was a Super Bowl. When they was in Atlanta, it was all cute. So, I mean, hey, it is what it is. Take your lumps. And it's one thing I always said. And this is when I used to play sports too. And I always felt this way. Stuff like that didn't bother me because I felt if I didn't want you to score, I should have stopped you. If you don't want me to score, stop me. That's the law of the jungle. I mean, come on. You can't get bad. You cannot get bad. So losing 41-17 is all right, but losing 48-17, oh, you done crossed the line, buddy. Come on, man. Stop. Look, was it Bush League? Yeah, some people probably can consider it Bush League, but for me, this is a hated rivalry. If the shoe was on the other foot, you actually think Atlanta would have stopped? No, Atlanta would have kept going. They would have kept going. But anyways, let's go over some stats in this game, starting with the team stats. Let's begin with first downs. The New Orleans Saints had 27 first downs today, 13 by passing, 12 by rushing, 2 by penalty. The Atlanta Falcons had 14 first downs today, 11 by passing, 3 by rushing, and get this, 0 by penalty. Third down efficiency. Saints were 3 for 10 today. Atlanta was 4 for 11 on fourth down efficiency. Saints went for it on fourth one time and converted it. They were 100%. Atlanta went for it one time and didn't convert. Total plays. Saints ran 66 total plays today to Atlanta's 60 total yardage. Saints had 400 total yards, dead even. 400 yards today to Atlanta's 389 total drives. Saints had 12 total drives to Atlanta's 13 yards per play. Saints 6.1, Atlanta 6.5. Passing yardage, Saints had 246 yards to Atlanta's 311 yards. Rushing, Saints had 154 yards rushing today to Atlanta's 78. That is monster. That is awesome, considering that the Saints, the last two times we've met this team, and this goes back to the previous season now, of course, Saints has given up over 200 yards rushing against Atlanta in each of the last two times we met. And to hold them under 100 today was pretty phenomenal. In the red zone today, Saints were 4 for 6. Vast improvement from their 0-5 red zone production level from the last time we played Atlanta. Yes, they were 4 for 6 today. Atlanta was 1 for 3. Penalties today, Saints only had 3 penalties today, and Atlanta had 8 turnovers. Atlanta had 3 turnovers today, 1 fumble and 2 interceptions. Time of possession, Saints dominated time of possession today, 33 minutes and 50 seconds. Atlanta had the ball for 26 minutes and 10 seconds. Individual stats, beginning with our passers, the New Orleans Saints leading passer today. Who was it? Of course, Derek Carr. He was 22 of 28, 264 yards, and not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 touchdowns today. For the Atlanta Falcons, Desmond Ridder, he was 22 of 30, 291 yards, and 2 touchdowns and 1 interception, which it could have been more than that. He was horrible. Running the ball, our leading rusher today was Kendry Miller, 13 carries for 73 yards and a touchdown. For the Atlanta Falcons, you have Bijan Robinson, 11 carries for 28 yards today. Leading receiver for the New Orleans Saints today was Rashid Shaheed, 3 catches for 65 yards and a touchdown. For the Atlanta Falcons, it is once again Bijan Robinson, 7 catches for 103 yards and a touchdown. Today's grades, and as I do after every Saints game, we grade every unit of the team: offense, defense, special teams, and coaching. Average it all out and come up with an overall grade of the New Orleans Saints performance today against the Atlanta Falcons. And just want to remind you, when we have our season wrap up, we're going to do also a grade for the overall season performance of the New Orleans Saints, which should be interesting. But today's grades, beginning with offense gets an A. Offense was very efficient today. Very efficient. Derek Carr was very efficient. Running the ball. Kendrick Miller looked amazing today. Everything worked. Our receivers were top notch today. It was just perfect. Everything worked. Everything clicked. And I was extremely happy with the offensive performance. They get an A today. For the defense gets an A minus. They get the minus because that first half, with the 2 big plays, other than those 2 big plays, Saints defense really shut down the Atlanta Falcons offense. But nonetheless, those were kind of big plays in the first half that had us kind of scared, sitting on the edge of our seats until the game just got completely out of control in that first half. Second half, I should say. Yes, defense gets an A minus. Special teams gets an A. Good job, Blake Groupie. Made all his extra points, made his field goals today. So goody good. Goody good for him. And Luke Headley, God bless him, man. He got so much better as the season went along. Our punter, I'm kudos to him. I'm really happy for him because early on, early on, man, it was frustrating. It was frustrating to watch him punt balls, but nonetheless, he did a good job today. Special teams gets an A. Coaching gets an A. Coaching did. The game plan today was outstanding. Great game plan. They attacked the Atlanta Falcons' weakness, and I think Michael called the best game he could call, or he has called in these past 2 years. Awesome job. They actually made adjustments in the second half, and I can't complain about them today. I can't complain about them today, but there's a lot to complain about them overall. But today they did a good job. Overall performance for the New Orleans Saints today, they get an A. I mean, hands down, they get an A. There's really nothing wrong. Nothing they did wrong. Other than allowing Atlanta to stick around in that first half, giving up the big plays with those whiffs and poor tackling that they cleaned up in the second half. Yeah, I can't get mad at them. They get an A today. So that leads me to who has to sit in the corner and who gets the game ball today. Who sits in the corner is Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams has to sit in the corner. He scored that touchdown late, but it's he doesn't run right to me. He's just not. I don't know what it is, and he doesn't look like that same player that played in Detroit last year, who led the lead in touchdowns last season. I don't know, man. He just does not look good. I don't know if it's the way they call in the games or whatever the case may be, but it's not a good look for Mr. Williams. And today he just did not look good. And God bless Kendry Miller, who gets the game ball today for having his breakout rookie game. He had a outstanding game carrying the load for Alvin Kamara, who wasn't here with us today because of the injury, scoring his first touchdown in the NFL. I think he did an outstanding job, and good job to him. I also want to give a little shout out, not the game ball, but I'll give him the laces, and that's for Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr did an awesome job today. Derek Carr looked like the quarterback that I thought we were signing last season, but last offseason. I thought we were going to get that throughout the season. If we would have got this Derek Carr 10 times this year, I'm like, I'll see you next week. Where we head next week? For the playoffs. It would have been wrapped up. This division would have been wrapped up. But there's no point crying over spilled milk. It is what it is. I guess you can build off of this for next season. All reports show that Dennis Allen is returning next season, which doesn't shock me. I figured that much, So it is what it is. I don't know what to do. Honestly, I don't know what to do for next year, because I don't want to come back to this, man. I don't want to watch this no more with this coach. This up and down, this inconsistent style of coaching, conservative style of coaching. It's aggravating. It's seriously aggravating. But I am happy with this win, though. Like I said, it's bittersweet. We didn't get to go to the playoffs, but this was an impressive win. I'm happy with it, and if that's how we're gonna go out this season, That's fine. Let's go out this season with it. We shall see moving forward how everything is going to change. Who's coming back? Who's leaving? What coaches are staying? Who's going to replace who? And so on and so forth. We have so many restructures that took place over the past week. Marcus Lattimore got his contract restructured. We saw that Jameis Winston got a contract restructuring, which is mind-boggling to me because I thought that he was he was a 1 year. I thought he only had a year left on his contract, but either way, I still don't see him returning next season. I wish him well. I hope he lands somewhere where they can respect his gangster. But here isn't the place for him. I don't think they believe in him like that here, but it's all good. But like I said, we'll play the waiting game. We'll see how this team moves forward. But the New Orleans Saints season is done. It is over. It is finished. Saints finished the season at 9-8. At least they're over 500 this year. That's a that's a plus. But yeah, we have wrapped up this 2023-24 season and second place in the NFC South. So how do you feel, Who Dat Nation? Are you disappointed, let down, or are you kind of relieved that it's over? Are you glad that we've been put out of our misery? I would love to know. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also look up the KB Radio Network on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, you subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and give this video a like. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the Dome Patrol podcast here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, it's been a joy this season, even though it was frustrating and migraine inducing to to watch the Saints this season. It is a joy. It's good to end on a high note. At least, we didn't lose like we lost last season to the Carolina Panthers when Carolina only had like 36 yards passing and beat us in that game. But at least we went out like G's this year. We beat the fire out of the Atlanta Falcons to the point where the coach was cursing out our coach. Something that we wanted to do all season long. But anywho's, I'll be back later on this week to recap the entire NFL season for the New Orleans Saints and have some prediction of where we're going next, what moves we need to make and what positions we need to address going into this off season. So more work for me. I think I'm going to do more work than the Saints might do, but it's going to be debated. Anywho's, everybody, thank you for joining me throughout this season, for supporting the show throughout this season. I know I've said that if Dennis Allen returned, I'm not going to come back next year, but I'm not going to. I'll be back next season. I'm just going to be back and mad like I was this season. But some of y'all like that. Some of y'all like me going off on this. I don't. I get a migraine, man. Man, I already got high blood pressure. I'm going to end up having a stroke messing around with the Saints. But anyways, everybody, I want you all to know I love you, man. I really do. Thank you for supporting this show. Happy New Year to all of you. And even though our season is done, I'm still going to be screaming, "Who dat?"